I must tell you something that cannot wait. Right now, as I speak these words to you, we are moving through an extraordinarily rare cosmic window that occurs only once every 248 years. Pluto has just completed its full transit through the collective consciousness. And what this means for Aquarius energy is nothing short of revolutionary. I know you might think this is just another discussion about zodiac compatibility, another list of signs that work well together, but this time is completely different. What I'm about to share with you goes far deeper than surface-level attraction or even long-term compatibility. We're talking about soul recognition at the quantum level. You've felt it, haven't you? That peculiar exhaustion that comes from trying to explain yourself to people who simply cannot grasp the frequency you operate on. If you're an Aquarius, you know exactly what I mean. It's not loneliness in the traditional sense. It's something far more specific. It's the bone-deep weariness of being perpetually misunderstood, of having your detachment labeled as coldness, your need for space interpreted as rejection, your visionary thinking dismissed as impractical dreaming. And if you're someone who loves an Aquarius, you've felt the other side of this equation, the confusion, the moments when you reach out and find only air, the questions that keep you awake at 3 in the morning, wondering if you'll ever truly reach them. But here's what most people don't understand about Aquarius energy, and this is crucial. Aquarius is not detached because they don't feel. They're detached because they feel everything. Let me say that again because this is the key that unlocks everything. Aquarius operates on a frequency so high, so refined, that they experience reality through a lens most people cannot even perceive. They're not standing apart from humanity because they think they're better. They're standing apart because they're processing collective consciousness in real time. And that level of awareness requires distance the way a satellite requires orbit to function properly. The traditional astrological texts will tell you that Aquarius is compatible with Gemini and Libra because they're all air signs. They'll mention Sagittarius for the shared love of freedom. And while there's truth in these connections, they're missing the deeper pattern. They're describing mental compatibility, intellectual stimulation, friendship potential, but soul connection. That's an entirely different frequency. That requires something most signs simply cannot provide. Have you noticed a shift in your relationships recently? A feeling that the old patterns no longer work? That's not coincidence. We're in the middle of a massive collective awakening, and Aquarius energy is at the very center of this transformation. Aquarius is the sign of the future, the revolutionary, the one who sees what's coming before anyone else does. And right now, the future is arriving faster than ever before. The question is, who can keep up? Who can match that frequency without trying to slow it down, domesticate it, or make it more palatable? The answer is going to surprise you because it's not the sign most astrologers would predict. It's not even a sign that seems compatible on paper. But when you understand the underlying mechanics of energy dynamics, when you grasp the true nature of what Aquarius needs at the soul level, it becomes crystal clear. The only sign that can't really connect with an Aquarius soul is Scorpio. I can feel your resistance to this idea. If you're an Aquarius, you might be thinking about every difficult Scorpio you've ever encountered. If you're a Scorpio, you might be remembering the Aquarius who seemed impossible to reach. And if you're neither, you're probably confused because these two signs seem like polar opposites, fixed air and fixed water, the detached intellectual and the emotional depth diver, the future-focused visionary and the past excavating transformer. On the surface, it makes no sense, but that's exactly the point. Soul connection doesn't happen on the surface. It happens in the depths that most people are too afraid to explore. Let me break down the strategic logic here, because this is not mysticism. This is energy mechanics. Aquarius is fixed air. What does that mean in practical terms? It means they have an unshakable mental framework, a vision of how things could be, should be, will be. They're not wishy-washy. They're not changeable. Once an Aquarius locks onto a frequency, a truth, a vision, they become immovable. But here's the paradox. That fixed quality exists in the element of air, which is inherently about movement, circulation throughout, ideas flowing freely. So you have this incredible tension. The unmovable mover, the constant that exists in flux. Now look at Scorpio, fixed water. The same structural tension but in the opposite element. Scorpio has an unshakable emotional core, a depth of feeling that never wavers, never dilutes. But that fixed quality exists in water, which is inherently about flow, transformation, the dissolution of boundaries, the unmovable feeler, the constant that exists in metamorphosis. Do you see it now? These two signs are mirror images operating in different dimensions. They're both dealing with the same fundamental challenge: how to maintain integrity while existing in an element that demands change. Aquarius does this through mental detachment. Scorpio does this through emotional intensity. And this is precisely why they can reach each other when no one else can. Most signs approach Aquarius trying to bring them down to earth, trying to make them more present, more emotionally available, more conventional. It never works. You cannot ground lightning. You cannot domesticate electricity. What happens instead is that Aquarius feels pressured, misunderstood, and ultimately withdraws even further. They don't need someone to make them more human. They need someone who can meet them in the stratosphere. Scorpio doesn't try to bring Aquarius down. Scorpio goes up, not through the mind, but through the intensity of their presence. Scorpio has this remarkable ability to create such a powerful gravitational field of authentic being that even Aquarius, in all their detachment, cannot help but feel it. It's not emotional manipulation. It's not neediness or clinginess. It's the opposite. It's such profound self-possession, such unwavering depth, that it creates a frequency match. Think about it this way. Aquarius is broadcasting on a very high frequency, like a radio station that most people's receivers simply cannot pick up. They're sending out signals constantly. But most signs are tuned to different channels. They're listening for emotional reassurance, for traditional displays of affection, for predictable patterns of connection. And Aquarius isn't broadcasting any of that. So people feel confused, rejected, shut out. They think the Aquarius isn't transmitting anything at all. But Scorpio has a different kind of receiver. Scorpio doesn't listen with their emotions in the conventional sense. They listen with their soul. They have this grace vision that penetrates surfaces and reads the energy underneath. When Scorpio encounters Aquarius, they don't hear silence. They hear a symphony. They perceive all the complexity, the brilliance, the revolutionary vision that Aquarius is holding. And more importantly, they're not intimidated by it. They're fascinated. This is the crucial difference. Most signs feel threatened by Aquarian detachment because they interpret it as rejection. Scorpio recognizes it as protection. Scorpio understands better than any other sign what it means to guard your depths, to keep your true self hidden from those who cannot handle the intensity of what you really are. Scorpio does this through secrecy and selective revelation. Aquarius does this through distance and intellectual abstraction. Different methods, same purpose. When these two signs meet at the soul level, something extraordinary happens. Aquarius finally encounters someone who isn't trying to change them, fix them, or make them more accessible. And Scorpio finally encounters someone who isn't afraid of their intensity, who won't run when things get deep, who can handle the full force of Scorpio's transformative power without dissolving. But let me be very clear about something. This connection is not easy. It's not comfortable. It's not the kind of relationship that makes you feel safe in the conventional sense. Rather than saying this is a soulmate connection, it's better to say this is a soul evolution connection. These two signs don't come together to make each other happy. They come together to make each other whole. The Aquarius-Scorpio dynamic operates on a principle I call reciprocal transformation. Aquarius holds the vision of what could be. Scorpio holds the power to make it real. Aquarius sees the future. Scorpio excavates the past that's blocking the path to that future. Aquarius brings the blueprint. Scorpio brings the demolition crew and the construction team. Neither can complete their sole mission without the other. Have you noticed how Aquarius can sometimes get stuck in their head, lost in concepts and theories that never quite manifest in reality? That's because air without water becomes too dried, too abstract, too disconnected from the emotional truth that gives ideas their power. Aquarius needs Scorpio's depth to anchor their vision in something real, something that can actually transform the world rather than just existing as a beautiful idea. And Scorpio, for all their emotional intensity and transformative power, can sometimes get trapped in their own depths. They can become so focused on excavating pain, processing trauma, diving into the shadow that they lose sight of where they're going. Water without air becomes stagnant, becomes a swamp rather than a river. Scorpio needs Aquarius's vision to give their transformation a direction, a purpose beyond just feeling everything. This is not about one sign completing the other in some romantic, codependent way. This is about two complete beings recognizing that their individual missions are part of a larger pattern. Aquarius is here to revolutionize consciousness. Scorpio is here to transform it. Revolution without transformation is just chaos. Transformation without revolution is just rearranging the furniture in the same old house. Now let me show you exactly how this plays out in the real world. Because understanding the theory is one thing, but witnessing the actual mechanics of this connection is what will make everything click into place for you. When Aquarius and Scorpio first encounter each other, there's usually a moment of recognition that neither can quite explain. It's not love at first sight in the traditional sense. It's more like a frequency lock, like two pieces of advanced technology that suddenly sync up without anyone pressing a button. Aquarius feels it as a strange pull towards someone who should theoretically be all wrong for them. Scorpio feels it as an inexplicable certainty that this person matters, even though they can't yet articulate why. What happens next is fascinating. Most relationships begin with a dance of revelation, where both people gradually show more of themselves over time. But the Aquarius-Scorpio dynamic doesn't work that way. Instead, there's this immediate plunge into depth that would terrify most other sign combinations. Scorpio asks questions that cut straight through social niceties and polite conversation, not because they're trying to be invasive, but because superficially is physically painful to them. They need to know what's real. And here's the remarkable part. Aquarius, who normally deflects personal questions with intellectual abstractions, actually answers, not with their usual detachment, but with a directness that surprises even them. Why does this happen? Because Scorpio's questions aren't coming from neediness or insecurity. They're coming from genuine curiosity about the architecture of another person's soul. And Aquarius can feel the difference. When someone asks you a personal question because they need reassurance, Aquarius shuts down immediately. But when someone asks because they genuinely want to understand the unique frequency you operate on, Aquarius opens up in ways that shock everyone who knows them. I've witnessed this pattern dozens of times in my practice, and it always follows the same trajectory. The Aquarius will say something like, "I don't know why I'm telling you this. I never talk about this with anyone." And the Scorpio will respond with perfect calm, as if receiving classified information is the most natural thing in the world. Because for Scorpio, it is. They're not impressed by your secrets. They're not going to use your vulnerability against you. They're simply acknowledging what they already sensed was there. This creates a foundation of trust that most relationships take years to build, if they build it at all. But here's where it gets complicated, and this is crucial to understand. Trust and comfort are not the same thing. Aquarius trusts Scorpio almost immediately, but they're rarely comfortable with them, and this is exactly as it should be. Comfort breeds stagnation. Comfort keeps you in your familiar patterns, and neither Aquarius nor Scorpio came to this planet to be comfortable. They came to evolve. The discomfort in this connection comes from being truly seen. Not the version of yourself you present to the world, not the persona you've carefully constructed, but the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are. For Aquarius, who spends most of their life operating from a safe distance, This level of visibility feels exposing in a way that's both thrilling and terrifying. Scorpio sees through every defense mechanism, every intellectual smokescreen, every attempt to redirect the conversation away from emotional truth, and they don't judge what they see. They simply acknowledge it. This is where most people misunderstand Scorpio's intensity. They think Scorpio is trying to control or possess the other person. But that's not what's happening at all. Scorpio is trying to witness. They have this profound need to see and be seen at the deepest possible level, and they assume everyone else wants the same thing. Most signs don't. Most signs want to be seen in their best light, want their flaws overlooked, want their contradictions smoothed over, but Aquarius, despite their detachment, actually craves this level of authentic witnessing. They just don't know how to ask for it. Let me give you a specific example of how this dynamic manifests in everyday interaction. Imagine an Aquarius going through a crisis. Maybe they've lost their job. Maybe a major project has fallen apart. Maybe they're dealing with a family emergency. Most signs would respond to this situation by offering emotional support, by trying to make the Aquarius feel better, by providing reassurance that everything will be okay. And the Aquarius would politely accept this support while feeling completely alone in their actual experience. Scorpio responds differently. Scorpio doesn't try to make it better. Scorpio sits in the darkness with you. They don't offer false hope or empty platitudes. Instead, they ask the question that no one else dares to ask. What does this crisis reveal about what you really want? What truth were you avoiding that this situation is forcing you to face? These questions sound harsh on the surface, but they're actually the most compassionate thing anyone could offer an Aquarius in crisis. Because Aquarius doesn't need comfort. They need clarity. They need someone who trusts their strength enough to not treat them like they're fragile. This is the gift Scorpio brings to Aquarius. Not protection from pain, but companionship through transformation. And in return, Aquarius brings something equally valuable to Scorpio. They bring perspective. They bring the ability to zoom out and see the larger pattern when Scorpio is drowning in emotional intensity. Scorpio has this tendency to get caught in cycles of emotional processing that can become consuming. They feel everything so deeply that they can lose sight of the bigger picture, can become convinced that their current emotional state is the ultimate truth. Aquarius, with their natural detachment and future-focused vision, can gently redirect Scorpio's attention, not by dismissing their feelings, but by showing them how those feelings fit into a larger evolutionary process. I've seen this play out in a particularly powerful way with a couple I worked with last year. The Scorpio partner was going through a profound period of grief after losing a parent. For months, they were completely submerged in the mourning process, unable to see beyond the pain. Most partners would have either tried to cheer them up or would have become exhausted by the intensity of the grief. But the Aquarius partner did something remarkable. They created space for the grief while simultaneously holding a vision of who the Scorpio was becoming through this process. They would say things like, "I can see how this is breaking you open in ways that are going to make you even more powerful in your healing work, not as a way to bypass the pain, but as a way to give it meaning." This is what Aquarius does better than any other sign. They can hold multiple timelines simultaneously. They can be present with what is while also perceiving what's emerging. And for Scorpio, who can get trapped in the eternal now of emotional intensity, this perspective is literally life-saving. It doesn't diminish their feelings. It contextualizes them. It shows them that their pain has purpose, that their transformation is part of a larger pattern. But let's talk about the shadow side of this connection, because pretending it's all profound soul recognition would be dishonest. The Aquarius-Scorpio dynamic can also be incredibly challenging. And if both people aren't committed to their own evolution, it can become toxic fast. The core challenge is this: Aquarius needs space, Scorpio needs depth, and these two needs can feel mutually exclusive. When Aquarius pulls back to process things mentally, Scorpio can interpret this as abandonment or rejection. When Scorpio pushes for emotional intimacy, Aquarius can feel suffocated or controlled. This creates a push-pull dynamic that can be exhausting if neither person understands what's actually happening. Here's what most relationship advice gets wrong about this dynamic. They'll tell Aquarius to be more emotionally available. They'll tell Scorpio to give more space. But this completely misses the point. The solution isn't for either sign to become less of who they are. The solution is for both signs to understand that space and depth are not opposites. They're different dimensions of the same thing. When Aquarius takes space, they're not running away. They're integrating. They're processing the intensity of the connection in the only way they know how, which is through mental analysis and energetic recalibration. If Scorpio can understand this, if they can't trust that Aquarius's withdrawal is actually a form of engagement rather than avoidance, everything changes. The space stops feeling like rejection and starts feeling like respect for Aquarius's process. And when Scorpio pushes for depth, they're not trying to trap Aquarius. They're trying to ensure the connection is real, that it's not just an intellectual exercise or a casual friendship. If Aquarius can understand this, if they can recognize that Scorpio's intensity is actually a form of honoring the connection rather than controlling it, everything shifts. The depth stops feeling like suffocation and starts feeling like recognition. This requires a level of emotional maturity that most people simply don't have. It requires both people to do their own inner work, to understand their own patterns, to take responsibility for their own rigors. But when it works, when both Aquarius and Scorpio are operating from their highest expression, the connection becomes a catalyst for exponential growth. Let me be very specific about who this connection is actually for. Because not every Aquarius and Scorpio pairing will experience this level of soul recognition. This is specifically for evolved Aquarius and evolved Scorpio. What does that mean? It means Aquarius who have done the work to understand that their detachment is a gift, not a flaw, but who have also learned to consciously choose when to engage emotionally rather than defaulting to distance. And it means Scorpio who have done the work to transform their intensity into power rather than using it as a weapon, who have learned to trust rather than control. If you're an Aquarius who is still using your intellect to avoid feeling, this connection will destroy you. Scorpio will force you to feel everything you've been running from. And if you're not ready for that, it will be overwhelming. If you're a Scorpio who is still using your emotional intensity to manipulate or possess, this connection will frustrate you endlessly. Aquarius will slip through every attempt to control them, and you'll end up feeling more alone than ever. But if you're both ready, if you're both committed to evolution over comfort, if you're both willing to be transformed by the connection rather than trying to shape it into something safe and predictable, then this pairing becomes something extraordinary. It becomes a laboratory for consciousness expansion. It becomes a training ground for the kind of love that most people don't even know is possible. Does this resonate with you? Have you felt this kind of connection, where someone sees through all your defenses and instead of running away, they move closer? That's the Scorpio gift to Aquarius. And have you experienced someone who can hold space for your intensity without trying to fix it or diminish it? Who can show you the larger pattern your transformation is serving? That's the Aquarius gift to Scorpio. Now I want to address something that might be making you uncomfortable right now, especially if you're an Aquarius reading this. You might be thinking, but I value my independence above everything else. The idea of needing anyone, even a Scorpio, feels like a betrayal of who I am. And I understand that resistance completely. Because Aquarius has been taught, both by society and by their own painful experiences, that needing someone means losing yourself. That connection equals compromise. That intimacy requires sacrifice. But here's the truth that will set you free. The Aquarius-Scorpio connection doesn't ask you to need less. It asks you to need differently. There's a profound difference between needing someone to complete you and recognizing someone as a catalyst for your evolution. The first is dependency. The second is alchemy. Aquarius doesn't need Scorpio to feel whole. Aquarius needs Scorpio to become more fully themselves. And that's not a weakness. That's the entire point of soul-level connection. Let me explain the mechanics of this more precisely, because this is where most people get confused about what soul connection actually means. We've been sold this idea that soulmates are supposed to make life easier, that the right person will feel comfortable and safe and familiar. But that's not how evolution works. Evolution requires pressure. It requires challenge. It requires being pushed beyond your current capacity so that you expand into something greater. Think about how diamonds are formed. Carbon subjected to immense pressure and heat deep within the earth. The pressure doesn't destroy the carbon. It transforms it into something infinitely more valuable. The Aquarius-Scorpio connection operates on this same principle. The intensity isn't meant to break you. It's meant to reveal what you're actually made of. When Aquarius and Scorpio come together, they create what I call a transformation chamber. It's not a safe space in the conventional sense. It's a sacred space. And there's a crucial difference. A safe space protects you from discomfort. A sacred space holds you through necessary discomfort so that real transformation can occur. Scorpio creates this container through their unwavering presence and their refusal to abandon shit when things get intense. Aquarius maintains this container through their ability to hold the vision of what's possible even when everything feels like it's falling apart. I've watched this dynamic play out in the most extraordinary ways. I worked with an Aquarius woman who had spent her entire life believing she was fundamentally unlovable because of her need for space and independence. Every relationship she'd been in had followed the same pattern. She would feel suffocated, would pull away, and her partner would interpret this as rejection and eventually leave. She had concluded that she was simply meant to be alone, that her wiring was incompatible with intimate relationship. Then she met a Scorpio man who completely disrupted this pattern. When she pulled away, he didn't chase her or guilt her or make it about his needs. He simply said, "Take all the space you need. I'll be here when you're ready to come back." And here's what shocked her. She actually wanted to come back. For the first time in her life, space didn't feel like escape. It felt like a natural rhythm. She could go into her solitude, process whatever she needed to process, and return to the connection without feeling like she damaged something irreparable. But it wasn't just about him giving her space. It was about the quality of presence he brought when they were together. He didn't need her to perform emotional availability. He didn't need her to be someone she wasn't. He was genuinely fascinated by how her mind worked, by the unique way she processed reality. And that fascination created safety in a way that traditional emotional reassurance never could. She told me, "He sees me as I actually am, not as who he wishes I would be. And being seen like that makes me want to be more present, not less." This is the paradox of the Aquarius-Scorpio connection. The more space Scorpio gives, the more Aquarius wants to engage. The more Aquarius engages, the more Scorpio rusts and relaxes their intensity. It's a positive feedback loop rather than the negative spiral that happens with most other sign combinations. But let's talk about what this looks like from the Scorpio side, because their experience is equally transformative. Scorpio spends most of their life feeling too much, too intense, too deep, too demanding. They've been told countless times to lighten up, to not take things so seriously, to stop being so heavy, and over time, many Scorpios learn to hide their depth, to pretend they're more casual than they are, to perform a version of themselves that's more palatable to others. Then they meet an Aquarius who doesn't need them to be anything other than what they are. Aquarius isn't intimidated by Scorpio's intensity because Aquarius isn't taking it personally. Aquarius understands that Scorpio's depth isn't about them. It's about Scorpio's relationship with truth, with reality, with the fundamental nature of existence. And Aquarius respects that. Not just tolerates it, actually respects it. I remember working with a Scorpio man who described his Aquarius partner this way. "She doesn't try to fix me. She doesn't try to make me less intense. She just observes me like I'm the most fascinating experiment she's ever encountered. And somehow that makes me feel more accepted than any amount of emotional validation ever has." This is the gift Aquarius brings to Scorpio. Not emotional mirroring, but intellectual honoring. Aquarius treats Scorpio's emotional depth the way a scientist treats a profound mystery, with curiosity, respect, and genuine interest in understanding how it works. And here's what happens when Scorpio feels truly accepted for their intensity. They stop using it as a weapon. They stop testing people to see if they'll stay. They stop creating drama to prove the connection is real. Because they finally have evidence that someone can handle the full force of who they are without running away or trying to change them. This allows Scorpio to channel their intensity into creation rather than destruction, into transformation rather than control. Now let me address the 3 specific zodiac signs that will experience this Aquarius-Scorpio dynamic most powerfully. Because not everyone reading this is an Aquarius or Scorpio sun sign. But you might have significant placements that activate this same frequency, if you're a water sign with strong Aquarius placements, particularly Aquarius moon or rising. You already understand this dynamic from the inside. You know what it's like to feel everything while simultaneously needing to detach and observe. You're living the integration of these 2 energies within yourself. And when you meet someone who embodies the opposite pole, it creates instant recognition. If you're an air sign with strong Scorpio placements, particularly Scorpio moon or rising, you're also living this paradox. You present as intellectual and detached, but underneath there's this volcanic emotional intensity that most people never see. When you encounter someone who can hold both aspects of you without trying to reconcile them or make them more consistent, it's profoundly liberating. And if you're a fixed sign of any element, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, you understand the fundamental challenge these 2 signs are working with. How to maintain your integrity, your core essence, while still allowing transformation and growth. Fixed signs are often misunderstood as stubborn or inflexible. But that's not accurate. Fixed signs are the ones who hold the center while everything else changes. They're the axis around which transformation can occur. And when 2 fixed signs come together, especially fixed air and fixed water, they create a stability that's powerful enough to withstand any storm. But here's what I need you to understand about timing, because this is crucial. The Aquarius-Scorpio connection is not for everyone at every stage of their journey. This is specifically for people who are ready to do the deep work. If you're still in the phase of your evolution where you're looking for someone to make you happy, to fill your emptiness, to validate your worth, this connection will be too much. It will ask more of you than you're ready to give. This connection is for people who have already done significant inner work, who understand that no one can complete them because they're already complete, who recognize that relationship is not about finding your other half but about two whole people choosing to evolve together. If you're at this stage, if you've reached this level of self-awareness and emotional maturity, then the Aquarius-Scorpio dynamic becomes the most powerful catalyst for growth you'll ever experience. Let me give you a very specific action plan, because understanding the theory is valuable. But knowing what to actually do with this information is what creates real change. If you're an Aquarius who recognizes this pattern, here's what you need to stop doing immediately. Stop apologizing for your need for space. Stop trying to be more emotionally demonstrative than feels natural to you. Stop believing that your detachment is a flaw that needs to be fixed. Your detachment is your superpower. It's what allows you to see clearly when everyone else is drowning in emotional reactivity. Own it, honor it, and find someone who can appreciate it for what it actually is. And here's what you need to start doing. Start communicating your process. When you need space, don't just disappear. Say, I need time to process this mentally before I can engage with it emotionally. That one sentence will prevent 90% of the misunderstandings that plague your relationships. Start recognizing that your intellectual engagement is a form of intimacy. You don't show love the way other people do, and that's okay. But you do need to help your partner understand that when you're analyzing something they said, when you're thinking deeply about their perspective, that is you caring. That is you being present in the only way you know how. If you're a Scorpio who recognizes this pattern, here's what you need to stop doing. Stop testing people to see if they'll stay. Stop creating intensity to prove the connection is real. Stop interpreting space as rejection. Your intensity is your gift. But when you use it to control or manipulate, it becomes your prison. You end up pushing away the very people who could actually handle your depth if you would just trust them enough to let them in without the tests and trials. And here's what you need to start doing. Start trusting that someone can be committed to you even when they're not physically or emotionally present every moment. Start recognizing that different people show love in different ways. And just because someone isn't matching your emotional intensity doesn't mean they don't care deeply. Start using your Aquarius vision to see the truth of someone's commitment rather than just their surface behavior. You have this incredible ability to perceive what's real. Use it to recognize authentic connection even when it doesn't look the way you expected. For both signs, here's the most important practice you can implement. Create what I call conscious separation and conscious reunion. This means that when Aquarius needs space, it's not a withdrawal. It's a conscious choice that's communicated clearly. And when they come back, it's not just drifting back into proximity. It's a conscious choice to re-engage. This transforms the push-pull dynamic from something that feels chaotic and painful into something that feels rhythmic and intentional. Scorpio's role in this practice is to hold the container without collapsing it. To maintain their own center, their own depth, their own intensity even when Aquarius is in their space phase. This is not about waiting passively. It's about continuing to do your own transformative work. Continuing to dive into your own depths. So that when Aquarius returns, you have something new to share, some new level of self-understanding to bring to the connection. Have you noticed how this completely reframes what relationship is supposed to be? We've been taught that good relationships are about constant togetherness, about always being available, about merging into one unit. But the Aquarius-Scorpio dynamic shows us a different model. A model where to complete. Powerful individuals maintain their sovereignty while choosing to intertwine their evolutionary paths. Not because they need each other, but because they recognize that their individual missions are amplified by the connection. This is what I mean when I say this is not a soulmate connection in the traditional sense. It's a soul mission connection. These two signs come together because they're working on complementary aspects of the same cosmic task. Aquarius is here to revolutionize consciousness. To show humanity what's possible beyond our current limitations. Scorpio is here to transform consciousness. To help humanity release what's no longer serving us so we can step into that new possibility. Neither can complete their mission without the other. And here's the profound truth that ties everything together. The reason this connection is so rare, so challenging, and so transformative is because it's not just about personal relationship. It's about collective evolution. When Aquarius and Scorpio come together at the soul level, they're not just transforming each other. They're creating a template for a new kind of relationship that humanity desperately needs right now. We're in a time of massive collective awakening. Old relationship models are crumbling. The traditional structures of partnership, marriage, family, they're all being questioned and reimagined. And what's emerging is a new paradigm where relationship is not about security or comfort or even happiness in the conventional sense. It's about evolution. It's about two people committing to support each other's highest becoming, even when that process is uncomfortable, even when it challenges everything they thought they knew about love. The Aquarius-Scorpio connection is the prototype for this new paradigm. It shows us that real intimacy is not about constant togetherness. It's about being able to hold space for someone's full humanity, including their need for solitude, their intensity, their contradictions, their complexity. It shows us that commitment is not about promising to never change. It's about promising to support each other through whatever changes are necessary for growth. So if you're an Aquarius who has been feeling like you're too different, too detached, too weird to ever find real connection, I want you to hear this. You're not broken. You're not defective. You're just operating on a frequency that most people can't perceive. But Scorpio can. Scorpio sees you. Not the version of you that you present to the world, but the truth of who you are. and they're not afraid of it. They're drawn to it. And if you're a Scorpio who has been feeling like you're too much, too intense, too demanding to ever be truly accepted, I want you to hear this. Your depth is not a burden. Your intensity is not a flaw. You're just experiencing reality at a level that most people avoid. But Aquarius doesn't avoid it. Aquarius is fascinated by it. They want to understand it, to map it, to honor it for the gift that it is. This connection is not for the faint of heart. It will challenge everything you thought you knew about relationship, about yourself, about what's possible between two people. It will ask you to grow in ways you never imagined.